Welcome to Leanne's Little Art Chats, the little podcast where I, Leanne, chat about art and creativity. I'm an unprofessional artist who's just trying to get better and learn and have fun. Part of that fun, I think, is sharing with other artists, which is why I started posting my work and thoughts and whatnot on YouTube, and that's why I started this podcast. I hope to encourage and inspire others if at all possible. So again, welcome. It is October, which is usually my favorite month. So far, so good. My assignment for the past week was to just make it through the week. That's all I'll say. I did take the time to work on some art. I figured I would do that, and I did. And as I was working in my sketchbook with no agenda, I wasn't trying to make anything really great. I just wanted to practice and doodle and maybe try a few different things and really not worry about it at all. And I actually ended up using some of my own references from a recent trip to Botanica, which is a local garden. I hadn't been there for some time, but I went in mid-September and it was so beautiful and I took a ton of photos. Anyway, I just spent some time goofing around, like I said, in my sketchbook, not having any particular goal. And it was really nice. So I always think I'm going to have some kind of big studio update. And I have not yet. I don't have anything for you really, other than trying to do a little bit of art each day. I'm also trying to design, stay with me here, okay? I'm trying to design some merch. My main goal in this is not to make money or make sales. I just kind of like designing products, and so I want some cute art shirts, and I don't know, I just like experimenting with that kind of thing. So I want to try that, and hopefully maybe I'll have some kind of drop, I guess. I don't know. Maybe this month. I hope that'd be great. But beyond that, I have some secret plans too, but I'm not going to talk about those yet. Anyway, so no studio update. So today my deep thoughts on art center around what you can do when you find yourself hating your art. Hopefully this will be helpful. I don't know. It's something that hasn't plagued me for a while. I was trying to think of how to put this, and I still don't know how to describe it, but I think hating my own art has not been a problem for me recently because I really don't have any expectations, and that sounds really bad, and I don't mean it in the way that sounds bad. I want to say I think I've successfully learned to remove my ego from things I create, and I realize that saying that sounds really egotistical and like I'm really full of myself. Maybe I am and I don't know it. It's entirely possible, I think. But anyway, whatever the reason, I mostly notice a lot of younger artists struggling with feelings of just disgust from their own art, younger artists or new artists. And honestly, no matter how bad it is, I don't think you need to feel this way. Of course, it's fine to create art that you end up hating. But kind of like in the sketchbook chat, it becomes a problem when it discourages you from trying and making more art. So that's what I was going to talk about in a little bit today. But first, I would like to share another artist I've been enjoying. I'm trying to do that every episode, share an artist or a resource. I've yet to do that, but I think there may be some coming soon. We'll see. So there is an artist I've been enjoying, and her name, she's called Kloodwig. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong, but she is an illustrator who uses a variety of mediums. She does a lot of ink illustrations though, and like watercolor and alcohol marker. And her work is just really lovely. like all of the artists I admire. And she makes YouTube videos every now and then where she's drawing and kind of talking, and they're very laid back and kind of have an ASMR feel. Not a lot of crazy editing or sounds or anything. Unlike my own videos, which that's a discussion for another time. But anyway, she is very good and very pleasing to watch. So I will link to her in the show notes, of course. Have you ever made a piece of art that you didn't care much for? Or maybe you just plain hated it? I feel like I've been seeing this a lot, and that's why today I wanted to talk about it. What can you do when you find yourself hating your artwork? If you're feeling this way, I don't have to tell you how frustrating it is to have that drive to create yet be so unhappy with what you're creating. Before I get into the action part of what you can do when you hate your art, I want to mention 2 things to keep in mind. First, it's important to realize that this is a totally normal feeling and something that happens to all of us. All artists have pieces that they dislike or hate. All of us have felt this at some point, and the feeling should not be taken as an indication that you aren't a good artist. The second point, which I think is critical, is that you make sure you do not mistake your art for yourself. I think we often blur these lines so easily because we feel being an artist is such an important part of our identities. Yes, art is an expression of some of our deepest feelings and thoughts, so of course our art is incredibly meaningful to us. Yes, it is and should be deeply personal. But just as you are not your thoughts, you are also not your art. When you realize this, it's easier to become detached from your art. That might sound odd to some, I realize. It's not that you should be disconnected from your art. I'm not saying you should be dispassionate about it. But when you're detached in a healthy way, you won't mistake your value for what you see in your art. Okay, now that we're in that mindset, what about the action part? What should you do when you hate your art? First, step back and try to figure out why or what you dislike about it. Are you unhappy with a particular part of the composition or your drawing skills? Is it the color off, or is it some other technical aspect? If this is the case, you can then focus on whatever particular aspect of your skill set that you feel is lacking and try to actively improve on these through study and practice. You can even look at work that you love by other artists and try to figure out exactly what it is about these pieces that you like. Then practice by emulating that. If it's not a technical issue, maybe you simply don't like the way your art makes you feel after you've made it. In this case, is it possible that you're just in a difficult season and your art is simply an indicator of that? Maybe not, though. Maybe you simply don't like it and you can't find a particular reason why. Maybe you feel like lately you don't like any of your work. In this case, it might be good to take a break from art. You can engage in another type of creative outlet like dancing or writing or music or cooking. Sometimes pursuing something entirely different can breathe new life into your other interests. Or you could simply do something relaxing like playing your favorite video game or spending time in nature. But if you do want to push on through and stick to your art, trying a different style, medium, or subject might be what you need. The important thing to remember is that making art that you hate is not the end of the world or even the end of your vocation as an artist. We all have pieces or even periods of art that we dislike or even very strongly dislike, and perhaps, yes, even hate. But it doesn't mean you won't ever make art that you love. It doesn't mean you aren't as good of an artist, and it certainly does not speak to your value as a person. It's fine to be dissatisfied with a certain piece or series of pieces, but instead of letting this distress you, let it teach you, and you'll be able to appreciate even your most hated artwork. Thank you so much for listening today. You can always follow along or reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc., where my username is Leanne Deluxe, which is LeAnneDelux. And of course, I will link to that in the show notes. I hope to chat with you again soon, and in the meantime, take care.